Let's talk about COVID considerations, what we've learned over the last 12 months when it comes to that particular environment and life safety. And life safety, when I say life safety, I mean fire and emergency lighting. Maybe, Andy, you'd like to give us a snapshot of what's happened over the last 12 months.
Obviously, it's been a very difficult time in the industry, particularly last March and April, where people were being discharged from hospital without any test, as testing wasn't a norm at that time. So basically, the challenges we had, well, we undertake obviously regular fire drills, and then we do fire simulation or fire evacuation drills. And it was a challenge because technically that encourages social gathering of staff. So what we did, we turned the fire evacuation drills into a desktop exercise where scenarios were given. What if there was a fire in Fred's room? What would you do, and what would happen to other people? Given that staff know the residents quite well, it seemed quite an effective method of undertaking that exercise, and especially night staff who could sit and socially distancing and undertake simulation desktop exercises. Going forward, I think we'll carry on doing that. It's been so successful. And the fire drills, what we did was on the weekly alarm test, we had less staff who would, when the alarm goes off on 10 o'clock on a Tuesday, we normally do it on a Monday, Tuesday or Wednesday so we can fix anything, not later in the week. And they would just accompany the head of maintenance doing that sort of test and work and go through some basic instructions. So that's how we managed that. It was okay, it was fine. We had a number of fire and rescue crews and officers who were concerned if they turned up to the home, what would happen and how would they know who was positive. So within our company, like a lot of organisations, every care plan has a PEEP on it, personal emergency evacuation plan, and we consolidate that plan and rate people red, amber and green. It's pretty well used in the industry, and we either have a little dot on the door or a butterfly coloured red, amber, green, so it's clear to staff and firefighters who is at higher risk group. And all we did on that plan is we would put a red C next to a room number with no name if there was a suspect COVID or positive COVID, so that will be presented to the fire crews on arrival. So I think that basically sums up what we did. Very simple things, and it's been successful. It's still successful today.
How does it affect maintenance? And I'll bring Simon in on this. Obviously there's a legal requirement to inspect these systems and to test them. So how has it affected over the last 12 months? How has that affected?
From a service perspective, Paul, I think as a contractor, there's certain things that you need and that we have implemented. It's really starting off with some good, accurate COVID-19 RAMs that are obviously circulated to all customers, and also not forgetting some regular updates with those COVID RAMs as well. So at churches, we generally update those once per month, whether it's an actual update or just a review. We obviously realise within the care home sector that all contractor visits must be pre-booked via a telephone call. We've also instructed that all technicians, once they arrive on site with a pre-booked call, that they shouldn't enter any care home and should remain in their vehicle and make yet another telephone call to site. Obviously, things change very quickly with COVID-19, so there may be no cases on the Tuesday, but there may be cases on the Wednesday. So we feel that it's important that the technician should stay in his vehicle and double check that everything okay, that it is okay from his previous booking from the previous day. Obviously, we need to bring our own PPE, so that could be in the form of gloves, masks and aprons, and also hand sanitizer, and clearly follow any rules on site that each individual care home have laid down. Another thing that we've introduced is we've offered more of a phone fix during this current lockdown. So we have taken that opportunity and tried to make a phone fix where we can, and we've particularly found useful using a WhatsApp video. So we would call possibly the maintenance manager or the maintenance man or the care home manager, and we will try and initiate a WhatsApp video call, ascertain whether the issue can be dealt with remotely without actually going to the home, and we found that very useful, as some of our customers have as well. I think then really we've also tried to prioritise as a final point with all of our technicians that do visit care homes to try and be proactive in joining the national vaccine programme. So I believe we've produced a letter to take to GPs to say that we do offer a critical service, and is there any chance that we could be prioritised in the vaccine programme.
People having poor sight, hearing and living with dementia, there's obviously a load of aspects around maintaining life safety and providing life safety for environments that have a lot of people with those particular conditions. So what are the key challenges, and what technologies are put in place to help the residents? Andy, is that something you can answer?
It's well known in the industry. Heavier people, or the technical term bariatric care, is extremely difficult to manage, and particularly majority of fire risks in care and in care homes are at night, where you've got substantially less staff, where you'll have 6, 7, 8 staff potentially on at night and 24 during the day. So you can see the difference. So you mentioned sight, it's not so bad for us, hearing's not so bad, but dementia is the industry difficulty, because for people that don't understand, it's residents with no comprehension of anything that's dangerous. For example, a small toaster fire we had in a lounge, the residents just sat there with the smoke engulfing them and had no awareness of any danger to get up and leave. So they're the main industry challenges.
Martin, can I bring you in here just to talk about some of the technologies available? I'm thinking particularly EN54 Part 23 devices that were introduced a few years back.
Yes, certainly. EN54 Part 23 is the industry benchmark for the testing and certification of digital alarm devices. Digital alarm devices are designed, it's the flashing beacons that you obviously commonly see in any commercial buildings. But the requirement is obviously for them to emit a certain light level above the ambient light level in the room, and they're designed basically for only people that may be hearing impaired to as a primary indicator of a fire alarm occurrence in the building. So certainly EN54 Part 23 obviously for hearing impaired people is very important. In certainly larger premises, phased evacuation can be implemented. So it could be that the zone of origin may go into alarm with sound and visual, and the zones around the zone of origin may be either visual only or an intermittent audible signal. So there's various things that can be done to control the evacuation process using technology available to addressable systems.
You mentioned evacuation there, Martin, and I have a note here that there's a 2.5 minute evacuation target. Can somebody just explain what that is?
Well, I can tell you a bit about it, but it may not make perfect sense. It's actually believed the 2.5 minutes came from a comedian called the Great Lafayette in the end of the 19th century. And there was a fire. He used to produce elephants and other animals on stage. There was nothing like it. And there was a fire, and the only way they could get people out or to stand up was to play the national anthem that takes 2.5 minutes, and hence the standard of 2.5 minutes. So it makes no particular sense in relation to 100-year-old who's in bed who needs a hoist to get them out, or some other method. So that's the background, and whether anybody disagrees or I understand that is correct what I've just said. Today it can be very, very, very difficult, and I know NASHiCS worked with previous C4 on some guidance that allow to extend that time if you're able to stop with people. It's all about the peeps, and in Barchester what we do is we say you do whatever it takes to save a life. So that is dragging a mattress, dragging somebody onto a duvet, rolling them on the duvet, pulling them out that room. So that's simple. We try and keep everything simple. So I hope that clarifies the 2.5 minutes rationale.
Talking about evacuation, and of course, I think Martin touched on this, that they're complex sites to evacuate. Sometimes multiple buildings on site, various disabilities. So what's the biggest challenge, Andy, in getting people evacuated safely in a fire situation?
The biggest challenge is as I said previously, is night time, which is the biggest issue, where you've got reduced staff. It's also, people believe that the concept of fire evacuation is always total evacuation. That is generally perceived by some fire officers or the fire brigade that turns up, and in the industry it's progressive horizontal evacuation. So the challenge is getting somebody from the point of a fire, and hopefully the start of a fire before it's developed, out of that room, giving them 30 minutes, and then moving everybody from that compartment, which is usually a maximum of 8 bedrooms, through a cross corridor door, to give them an hour's protection from that point of origin, and that's the challenge.
Yeah, I think in terms of the emergency lighting, as you say, the biggest challenges are at night when it's dark as well, which adds to the challenge. So it enhances the importance of good emergency lighting. You also find in certainly hotels and care homes where there are quite often sort of intricate corridors, when you have several exits and one doesn't know where the fire is. It's good practice if we can, and there are sort of future developments coming along, and some on the market now from ourselves and various other manufacturers, to actually sort of provide wayfinding, so that it will in some respects sort of point you towards the safest exit, or block off exits where the fire may be. The point is, it has to be totally unambiguous, and particularly as Andy mentioned, that where you have dementia patients and this kind of thing, who are already perhaps sort of quite confused, multiple sort of signage would add to the confusion. But if the staff particularly know definitely that's the exit to go down, rather than the one with the red X, for instance, it makes life easier and quicker and safer, and makes the 2.5 minutes perhaps sort of more realistic. So that's some developments for the future which may help with that aspect.
Now, false alarms has always been a hot topic in our industry. How do they affect the care sector, and what can we do to minimise false alarms? Simon, do you have a view on that?
Yeah, so I think really, obviously the reduction of false alarms can be assisted by some good planned preventative maintenance programs and practices, probably paying particular regard to the life expectancy of any equipment, and in particular any sensors within the care home, and really checking contamination levels at each regular planned preventative maintenance. Sort of well delivered staff training would be of great assistance as well, together with probably a robust fire strategy that needs to be implemented. Also, various delays could be programmed into a fire system as well, possibly to allow an investigation period. So maybe something like a double knock, rather than an alarm is activated and we take it as gospel that there is a fire. So maybe a delay programmed into the system would assist as well. But I think really good planned preventative maintenance programs.
Andy, anything to add for that?
Visual checks of electrical equipment that comes into care premises is vital, more so probably than PATs, because you can see as it comes in on the day if plugs are scorched or cables are broken. One of the problems in the care industry is, believe it or not, is toasters. And toasters, they don't generally cause fires, but they cause smoke and smoke incidents that lead to activations, and some of the activations go through to a call centre or whoever, and then all of a sudden we get the emergency services, and after 3 times they're not very happy. So toast is a big challenge. Believe it or not, we've had 2 fire incidents with halogen lamps. When older people need more light, the halogen lamps are a very bright lamp, but as you know, they keep food warm in the industry. So the 2 incidents, one was the heat from a bulb set the chair on fire, and one of them drew so much power it set the cable on fire, and it caused a big problem, a lot of damage in a lounge. So we've now banned halogen lamps, and we'll only allow these are the floor lamps, the mother and daughter lamps. You've got one at the top and then an arm. So we only allow LED. So it's a case of being smart. And by the way, the other thing we've had fires, a few, is mirrors, magnifying mirrors in windows, believe it or not, when the sun catches them and they're magnified at the rock, in a certain time. So it's where mirrors are placed in bathrooms, and so it is a challenge. And the minuses are we get a bad relationship with the local fire brigade, and we don't want that, because these men and women are fantastic, and the service they provide to us. So they're the challenges that we face. So yeah.
Just on the back of what Andy was saying, really, with reference to cooking, etc., some facts and figures really around false alarms. So I think majority of false alarms, I think 22% are caused by environmental factors. I think it's about 18% are caused by system fault or system design. And then the part that Andy alluded to, cooking fumes or products of cooking, account for 18% as well. There's a very small amount made up of malicious intent of about 6%, I do believe. And then things like bugs and insects account for about another 6% as well.
Those numbers, those figures, they're for signalled systems, aren't they? They're for signals. They're for systems that signal directly to the fire brigade. Is that fire brigade responses that have been false alarms of any sort, or is that actually reported in some other way?
I think that's recorded in some other way, not in fire brigade responses. Okay.
Because the reason I'm asking that is certainly for addressable systems, there are investigation delays that can be programmed into the system. So it gives, on the occurrence of an activation, it actually gives the staff a few minutes to respond to the event before it actually becomes scenario. So I just wondered, Andy, what's your view on that? Is that something that you actually utilise in your properties?
Okay, well, I have got views on this. I'm really keen on a 2-minute double knock system where we can alert staff to a potential fire. And the other issue is doors on staircases above the ground floor. If the alarm system goes off and the doors are released, the magnetic doors, there has been a death in the industry where somebody fell down the stairs. So we do have double knock in our new builds, and the alarm system it doesn't work as we would probably ideally like, and I don't know whether it's appropriate to share what we would really like in relation to what would suit us. One of the things that we've looked for and we would like is a voice system at the start of a potential fire to say potential fire incident, zone 3, bedroom 10, and that would enable us to not go to the panel or the repeater panel to see what the problem is. It would enable us to swiftly bypass that and go to the potential fire within minutes, or less than minutes, probably seconds, and ascertain if that is a potential fire or not. So that's a future system we would like, but we've not been able to find something that would give us that voice messages. And at night it would be great for us to be able to do that, so we're not deploying people to central panels or repeater panels. So yes, we are a big fan of double knock, including door control, and especially external door control. If you've got people living with dementia and the fire alarm goes off, some people may want to get out onto the road, which is a nightmare for us. So I hope that's answered that.